During this block of instruction, I will provide detailed information on the DA Form 2166-9 series, which includes the NCOER support form and the 3 grade plate NCOERs. I will cover the key form changes, as well as provide clarification for the definitions and descriptions for the leader attributes and competencies and rater and senior rater box scale. Here is the agenda and the following key areas I would discuss. What is changing on the NCOER? DA Form 2166-9 series and the parts of each form, leader attributes and competencies, and performance measures. In addition, I will also discuss the rater and senior rater assessments for each form and the senior rater potential measures. Here is a comparison chart of the current NCOER and the new NCOER. As you can see, the new NCOER support form aligns with current doctrine ADP 6-22, whereas the current NCOER is based on outdated doctrine. The DA 2166-9 now has an entry for the rated NCO to provide their goals and expectations for that rating period. The support form also incorporates an SSD and NCOES completion box for the next grade so that the rater and senior rater may track the progress of the NCO's military education level and attaining promotion eligibility. 3 reports were developed for the level of leadership, based on grade and scopes of responsibility. The first NCOER form, which is referred to as the direct level report, is for NCOs in the rank of sergeant. This form is developmental in nature. At this level, junior NCOs are refining the ability to apply competencies at a proficient level. The organizational level form is for staff sergeants through master sergeants. It focuses on organizational systems and processes. In this level of leadership, NCOs apply competencies to increasingly complex situations. The last form is the strategic level report for command sergeants major and sergeants major. At the strategic level, leaders shape the military through change over an extended time. There is a clear delineation between the rater and senior rater responsibilities. The rater will assess performance only, and the senior rater will assess potential. The senior rater will also assume the role and responsibility of reviewer. The role of supplementary reviewer has been added, and there are certain cases when a supplementary review is required. The assessment format has also changed, as the senior rater comments will be written in narrative format, and the entire assessment for command sergeants major and sergeants major will be written in narrative comments. The new NCOER is designed to reduce inflation, and this will be accomplished through the controlled potential-based senior rater assessment and also by incorporating a rater tendency label and a managed senior rater profile for staff sergeants through command sergeants major and sergeants major. As I mentioned on the previous slide, DA Form 2166-9-1 Alpha, the NCOER support form, will align with Army leadership doctrine. In addition, the rated NCO's current military education level and structured self-development codes will be included on the form. This will enable the rating officials to mentor and counsel the rated NCO and track his or her progress in attaining promotion eligibility for the next grade. In the case of sergeants major, eligibility for joint and/or nominative assignments. Another key change is the ability for the senior rater to counsel the rated NCO twice during the rating period and document it on the NCOER support form. This will complement the rater's initial and quarterly counseling session. Also, with the implementation of a senior rater profile, it becomes more critical for the senior rater to provide counsel and mentorship to the rated NCO. In Part 4, the rated NCO will list their goals and expectations. This change gives the rated NCO input about the goals and expectations, but will also place more onus or responsibility on the rated NCO to perform throughout the rating period. The information provided gives the rating officials additional information to consider when evaluating overall performance and potential at the end of the rating period. As mentioned, the NCOER support form does capture the attributes and competencies from ADP 6-22. In Part 5, in the left column, The rater will identify the major performance objectives based on the attributes and competencies listed in ADP 6-22. In the right column, the rater can list the rated NCO's contribution or accomplishments. These comments can help provide the basis for the NCOER itself. In Part 6, the senior rater will be able to provide comments based on counseling sessions conducted with the rated NCO. The next several slides are screenshots of the draft grade plate NCOERs, broken down by a section. As for the front page, it is the same for all three forms with the exception of the DA Form 2166-9-3, Command Sergeants Major and Sergeants Major, which will be written in narrative comments. In support of the Department of Defense initiative to discontinue the use of Social Security numbers, the 10-digit DoD ID number located on the back of the Common Access Card will be utilized versus the rated NCO's SSN. Rated NCOs, rating officials, and delegates must ensure that UICs are entered correctly in Part 1, Block H. If the UIC is entered incorrectly, the reporting database evaluation reporting system will not be able to retrieve information for that invalid UIC. Like IWRS, ERS is the status reporting database for all evaluations processed in the evaluation entry system. During a rated soldier lookup, if the UIC is incorrect, then contact your Unit S1 to update the database of records. You can overwrite the information on the NCOER. However, it will not correct the main database. Remember, if you use the NCOER support form in the online system, all of the admin information entered on the form will auto-populate the NCOER when it is created from the support form. This is a key to data accuracy in the evaluation system process. DoD ID numbers will be utilized for rating officials as well. If DoD ID numbers are not available, then the SSN will be used. An example of this is when a rating official does not have a DoD-issued CAC, e.g., rating officials who work for the State Department and Congress. AKO email addresses will not be entered on the form. Use .gov or .mil. As mentioned before, the senior rater will perform the review unless a supplementary review is needed. If a supplementary review is not required, then the user will select No in Part 2, Block C1, and leave the remaining section blank. If the Uniformed Army Advisor determines comments are necessary, he or she will select Yes in Part 2, Block C4 of the NCOER and prepare an enclosure to the NCOER, which will address the accuracy and clarity of the completed NCOER. Note, the comments will not include evaluative statements about the rated NCO or statements that amplify, paraphrase, or endorse the ratings of the other members of the rating chain. The rated NCO's signature will verify the accuracy of the administrative data in Part 1, confirming the name and SSN on the evaluation report, rank and date of rank, branch or MOS data, period covered, and non-rated time. The rating officials and counseling dates in Part 2, the duty description in Part 3, and the APFT and height and weight entries in Part 4. This procedure ensures that the rated NCO has seen the completed evaluation report. It also increases the administrative accuracy of the evaluation report and will normally preclude an appeal by the rated NCO based on inaccurate administrative data. Remember, if you use the NCOER support form in the online system, all of the admin information entered will auto-populate the NCOER when it is created from the support form. The duty description is comprised of 5 sections in Part 3. The first section, Part 3, Block A, is the principal duty title. The duty title will parallel the duty title shown on the NCOER support form. The next section, Part 3, Block B, is the duty MOSC, the Duty Military Occupational Specialty Code, at least 5 characters but no more than 9, that coincides with the duty title will be entered. In cases where the rated NCO is filling an officer position, enter the enlisted MOSC that best match the officer position. The third section, Part 3, Block C, is a description of the daily duties and scope. The user will enter the most important routine duties and responsibilities. Unless changes occur during the rating period, the duty description on the NCOER should be the same as the one on the NCOER support form. Note, written in a series of phrases starting with action words separated by semicolons and ending in a period, use present tense. The fourth section, Part 3, Block D, Areas of Special Emphasis, is a list of tasks or duties that required top priority during the rating period, such as SRP, UPL, or Master Resiliency. Note, separated by semicolons and ending in a period. The last section, Part 3, Block E, is a list of appointed duties. These are duties appointed to the NCO not normally included in the duty description. Note, separated by semicolons and ending in a period. Remember, if you complete the NCOER support form within EES, then all of the admin information will auto-populate the NCOER when it is created. In Part 4, Blocks A and B, the rater will enter the most recent record APFT administered by the unit within the 12-month period to the through date of the NCOER, and the unit's last record weigh-in data, including whether or not the rated NCO is in compliance with AR 600-9. Comments are mandatory for an APFT failure, no APFT, a profile that hinders duty performance, and a no entry for height and weight compliance. Remember, if you use the NCOER support form in the online system, all of the admin information entered will auto-populate the NCOER when it's created within the evaluation entry system. In Part 5 of the 3 Great Plate NCOERs, the rater will begin assessing the rated NCO on his or her attributes and competencies from Army Doctrine Publication ADP 6-22. As defined in ADP 6-22, leadership is the process of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. Based on this, the leadership requirement model outlines the expectations that the Army wants leaders to meet. The attributes, character, presence, and intellect are what leaders should be and know, while the competencies, leads, develops, and achieves are what leaders should do. In order to display effective leadership, the leader must blend the core leadership attributes, those characteristics inherent to the leader that moderates how well learning and performance occur, with competencies, groups of related leader behaviors that lead to successful performance and are common throughout the organization and consistent with the organization's mission and value. Leaders acquire competencies at the direct leadership level. As the leader moves to organizational and strategic level positions, the competencies provide the basis for leading through change. Leaders continuously refine and extend the ability to perform these competencies proficiently and learn to apply them to increasingly complex situations. Filtering these attributes and competencies through the levels of leadership, be it direct, organizational, or strategic, allows the rater and senior rater to manage and set expectations for the rated NCO. When you look at the new Great Plate NCOERs, you should note that they too are organized along this methodology, and the expectations of a new sergeant are not the same as those of a command sergeant major or sergeant major. That is why we have changed from 1 form to 3 forms, so that it is readily apparent how expectations change. The outcomes listed are some of the expected results that happen when our Army and its leaders possess, develop, and apply strong attributes and competencies. This attributes chart from the Center of Army Leadership breaks out what is expected of a leader by level. You can see that the level of complexity and responsibility increases with rank. This illustrates the necessity for the 3-level based NCOERs. Character. Leadership is affected by a person's character and integrity. Integrity is a key mark of a leader's character. It means doing what is right, legally and morally, and is essential to successful leadership. Army values empathy, warrior ethos, service ethos, discipline. Presence. The impression a leader makes on others contributes to success in getting people to follow. This impression is the sum of a leader's outward appearance, demeanor, actions, and words, and the inward character and intellect of the leader. Military and professional bearing, fitness, confidence, and resilience. Intellect. The leader's intellect affects how well a leader thinks about problems, creates solutions, makes decisions, and leads others. Mental agility, sound judgment, innovation, interpersonal tact, expertise. This competencies chart from the Center of Army Leadership breaks out what is expected of a leader by level. You can see the level of expectations increases as leaders progress through their career. This further illustrates the necessity for the three-level based NCOERs. Leads. Leaders motivate, inspire, and influence others to take initiative, work towards a common purpose, accomplish critical tasks, and achieve organizational objectives. Influence focus on compelling others to go beyond their individual interests and to work for the common good. Leads others, builds trust, extends influence beyond the chain of command, leads by example, communicates. Develops. Leaders encourage and support others to grow as individuals and teams. They facilitate the achievement of organizational goals through helping others to develop. They prepare others to assume new positions elsewhere in the organization, making the organization more versatile and productive. Creates a positive command, workplace environment, fosters esprit de corps, prepares self, develops others, stewards of profession. Achieves. A leader's ultimate purpose is to accomplish organizational results. A leader gets results by providing guidance and managing resources, as well as performing the other leader competencies. Gets results focuses on consistent and ethical task accomplishments through supervising, managing, monitoring, and controlling the work. Gets results. When the rater assesses the rated NCO's performance based on the attributes and competencies of ADP 6-22, he or she will use the following performance measures: far exceeded standard, met standard, did not meet standard. Note, the direct level report for sergeant will only use met standard and did not meet standard. The organizational and strategic level reports will use all four performance measures. We'll now discuss each performance measure on the following slides. Far exceeded standard is defined as a rated NCO who performs extraordinarily above the required Army standards and organizational goals of a leader competencies and attributes. This is typically demonstrated by the best of the upper third of NCOs of the same grade. This performance measure is used in rare or very unique instances. The following examples were identified by TRADOC and the proponents. Exceeded standard is defined as a rated NCO who performs above the required Army standards and organizational goals of leader competencies and attributes. This is typically demonstrated by the upper third of NCOs of the same grade. The following examples were identified by TRADOC and the proponents. Met standard is defined as a rated NCO who successfully achieves and maintains the required Army standard and organizational goals of leader competencies and attributes. This is typically demonstrated by a majority of NCOs of the same grade. The following examples were identified by TRADOC and the proponents. Did not meet standard is defined as a rated NCO who fails to meet or maintain the required Army standards and organizational goals of leader competencies and attributes. The following examples were identified by TRADOC and the proponents. In September 2013, an Army directive was published mandating all raters to assess how well the rated soldier fostered a climate of dignity and respect and adhered to the sexual harassment, assault response, and prevention program on their evaluation report. With the release of the new NCOER and updates to AR 623-3, raters will include their assessment for rated soldiers' performance in support of SHARP, as well as annotate any substantiating findings found in the Army or DoD investigation or inquiry in Part 4, Block C. On DA Forms 2166-9-1 and 2166-9-2, the rater will enter bullet comments addressing the rated NCO's performance as it relates to adherence to the Army values, warrior ethos, service ethos, discipline, and SHARP, EO, and EEO. As mentioned previously, the rater will provide narrative comments for Command Sergeants Major and Sergeants Major on the DA Form 2166-9-3. The rater will continue their assessment of the rated NCO's attributes and competencies on page 2 using a 2-box scale. This NCOER will be focused on technical proficiency and is developmental in nature. If the rated NCO successfully achieved and maintained the required Army and organizational standards of leader competencies and attributes consistent with the majority of NCOs in that grade of the rater's population, the rater will place an X in the Met Standard box. If the rated NCO failed to meet or maintain the required Army standards and organizational goals of a leader, competency, and attributes and performance was below the majority of NCOs in that grade of the rater's population, the rater will place an X in the Did Not Meet Standard box. Rater comments will remain in bullet format, and the rater may enter up to 8 lines of text and spacing in Part 4, Block C through H. As for the overall performance, the rater will assess the rated NCO's overall performance compared to other NCOs in that rank and grade. For those who are assessing NCOs in a particular rank for the first time, the rater will use their experience when providing comments. Whereas the direct level report for sergeants uses a 2-box scale, the organizational level report for staff sergeant through first sergeant, master sergeant uses a 4-box scale which consists of far exceeded standard, met standard, and did not meet standard. If the rated NCO's demonstrated performance surpassed the required Army and organizational standard of leader competencies and attributes of the majority of NCOs in that grade of the rater's population, the rater will place an X in either the exceeded standard or far exceeded standard box. The rater will use the exceeded standard and far exceeded standard boxes to identify the upper third of NCOs for each rank, with further stratification of the upper third by use of the far exceeded standard box. Note, far exceeded standard is demonstrated by the best of the upper third of NCOs of the same grade. If the rated NCO successfully achieved and maintained the required Army and organizational standards of leader competencies and attributes consistent with the majority of NCOs in that grade of the rater's population, the rater will place an X in the Met Standard box. If the rated NCO failed to meet or maintain the required Army standards and organizational goals of leader competencies and attributes, and performance was below the majority of NCOs in that grade of the rater's population, the rater will place an X in the Did Not Meet Standard box. Rater comments will remain in bullet format, and senior rater comments will be in narrative format. As for the overall performance, the rater will assess the rated NCO's overall performance compared to other NCOs in that rank and grade, using the 4-box scale while providing comments. For those who are assessing NCOs in a particular rank for the first time, the rater will use their experience when providing comments. Note, if the rater assesses the rated NCO as did not meet standard for any of the attributes or competencies, then the far exceeded standard and exceeded standard selections for the rater overall performance, Part 4, Block I, DA Form 2166-9-2, and Part 4, Block E, DA Form 2166-9-3 will be grayed out. The rater will only be able to select from met standard or did not meet standard. The strategic level report for Command Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major, will focus on large organizations and strategic initiatives. It's similar to the OER in that the rater and senior rater will assess using narrative comments. The rater's assessment of overall performance in Part 4, Block E, will function the same as the organizational level report for Staff Sergeant through First Sergeant, Master Sergeant. For the organizational level and strategic level reports, the senior rater will assess the rated NCO's overall potential during the rating period compared against other NCOs of the same rank. The senior rater currently senior rates and has senior rated previously. If the rated NCO's potential exceeds that of the majority of NCOs in the senior rater's population, then the senior rater will place an X in the most qualified box. This box check identifies NCOs with strong potential for promotion in the secondary zone and ahead of peers. In order to maintain a credible profile, the senior rater must have up to 24% of the ratings in a grade to retain the most qualified label. If the rated NCO's potential is consistent with the majority of NCOs in the senior rater's population, then the senior rater will place an X in the highly qualified box. This box check identifies NCOs with a strong potential for promotion with peers. If the rated NCO's potential is adequate but beneath the majority of NCOs in the senior rater's population, then the senior rater will place an X in the qualified box. This box check identifies NCOs who demonstrate potential to be successful at the next level. Promote if sufficient allocations are available. If the rated NCO's potential is below the majority of NCOs in the senior rater's population, then the senior rater will place an X in the not qualified box. This box check identifies NCOs who do not demonstrate potential for promotion. Recommend separation. The senior rater's assessment of the rated NCOs in the rank of sergeant and sergeant promotable overall potential will be unconstrained, which basically means that there will not be a limitation imposed on which box the senior rater may use. Please note that this only applies to the direct level report for sergeant. The senior rater will also provide narrative comments to support their box check: most qualified, highly qualified, qualified, not qualified, and list 2 successive assignments and 1 broadening assignment that the rated NCO can best serve the Army in the future. The senior rater's comments will be in a narrative format, and the rating official may enter up to 5 lines of text. The senior rater may enter up to 5 lines of text in narrative format in Part 5, Block B. The senior rater assessment of the rated NCO's overall potential will be constrained and limited to 24% top block or most qualified. The silver bullet refers to the senior rater being able to render a top block for any one of the first 4 reports. For example, if the senior rater renders a most qualified assessment for the first NCOER, then the next 7 will have to be either highly qualified, qualified, or not qualified. The senior rater profile requires the rating official to identify the best talent and reserve the top block assessment for those who are truly deserving. While the box check is important, the senior rater's narrative comments are just as significant. The narrative comments should quantify and/or support the box check. In Part 5, Block C, the senior rater will list 2 successive assignments and 1 broadening assignment by duty title only that the rated NCO can best serve. To recap Module 3, Grade Plate Forms, we covered the following key areas. What is changing on the NCOER? The 2166-9 series forms and parts of each form, and the leader attributes and competencies, and how the leadership requirement model is linked to the 3 reports. In addition, we covered the rater and senior rater's assessment for each form in the NCOER support form.